Figures from 2000 to 2005 show the causes of forest loss in the Brazilian Amazon. By a wide measure, cattle ranching is the primary driver of deforestation. Small-scale agriculture accounts for between 20 and 25% of deforestation worldwide. Then there's industrial farming, 5 to 10%, logging, 2 to 3%, and other things, 1 to 2%. Deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon is mostly due to cattle ranching, with logging and other activities having the least influence. An amazing picture shows the beauty of the Mother Nature and a classic man-made structure. It seems to be a wooden bridge in some lush green jungle. The bridge is pretty long, and the camera angle is marvelous as the photo shows the stretch of the bridge till the end on the other side. The bridge is protected by a beautiful net on both of its sides. The photo creates an illusion of an elevated bridge that otherwise may not be the case. Finally, looking at the image, I can also guess that the bridge is built at some height as there is no ground or land visible in the photo. Using the bar graph, you can see which nations have the most multinational 500 firms. At 130 and 90, respectively, these firms hailed from the United States and China. There are only approximately 10 of these firms in Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Canada, respectively. In general, the United States has the most businesses, whereas Canada has the least number of businesses. In the given picture, a young girl is listening to the music in a natural environment. She is listening to music on headphones and a phone can be seen in her hand. Her eyes are closed as she is enjoying the music. She is either in a garden or at a natural open place. The day looks bright and sunny. The greenery can be seen all around. The girl looks very relaxed. Music is a therapy and people get rejuvenated when they listen to their favorite music. Gross national happiness is depicted in the graph, GNH. On the graph, it's easy to see that health and community vitality go hand in hand, and the color purple reflects this. The color is orange, and we can tell that living conditions and education are above average. The color is green, and we can see that people are happy and that the government is doing a wonderful job. The graph makes it crystal evident that ecological diversity, resilience, and time consumption can all be seen, and the color blue can also be seen. This is a helpful image at the end. Individuals from the United States and people from other countries have been compared in a line graph from 1990 to 2005. From 1990 to 2001, the number of Americans who traveled outside of the United States climbed rapidly, peaking at 80 million persons and then decreasing to 60 million in 2005. Over the past several decades, there has been a minor rise in the number of international visitors to the United States, from under 20 million in 1990 to less than 28 million in 2005. As a general rule, there were more Americans who traveled outside of the United States than those who traveled within the United States. A food chain is depicted visually in this graph. Bees and plants are clearly shown in the graph as the initial phase. Fish devour bees, according to a graph that shows how things will go from here. According to the graph, the following phase is bears devouring the fish, which is clearly seen. The skeleton of a bear can clearly be seen on the graph, as the final phase. In the graph, it is evident that the cycle repeats itself at the beginning of the cycle. As a result, this graph depicts a food chain. Two instances of input-process-output are shown in the process. A factory creates a product, which is the end result of a process that begins with raw materials. Computers are used in this process, and information is generated as a result. Many examples of input-process-output may be found. The three-step answer both input and output are shown in the process. A factory creates a product, which is the end result of a process that begins with raw materials. One-word response to input-process-output examples are shown in this procedure. From 1945 through 2009, the data in this graph depicts the average tax rates paid by the wealthiest Americans. According to the graph, the biggest percentage of the top 0.01% may be found in 1945, about 60%. Only about 20% of the population was affected in 2005. According to the graph, the biggest percentage of the top 0.1% can be found in 1945, which is over 55%. In 1990, the lowest percentage was roughly 25%. As a final point, this graph displays the average tax rates for the wealthiest Americans. There are 4 categories of media advertising that are compared in terms of cost, which is assessed in US dollars. At $257 in 2030, internet advertising is estimated to be the highest, while TV advertising is predicted to be at around $55. As a whole, the cost of all media is expected to fluctuate greatly in the future, with the internet costing the most and TV the least. The graph below shows the breakdown of fast food consumption by meal. Breakfast, lunch, supper, and a snack are among the options. Breakfast has a value of around 22.7%, according to this graph, while snack has a smaller percentage of roughly 26%. The greatest value of lunch is 43.7%, as seen in this graph. You can also observe from this graph that dinner has the second highest value at 42%. Finally, there are 4 types of fast food consumption. The graph depicts the water cycle from snow to icebergs and how it is recycled. According to the graph, we can clearly observe snow, bedrock, and an ice sheet on the left side. According to the graph, the grounding line and ice shelf may be clearly seen in the center. According to the graph, we can clearly observe the melting and warming ocean water at the bottom. According to the graph, we can clearly see an ice shelf and icebergs to the right. As a last note, this diagram depicts the water recycling process from snow to icebergs. There is a pyramid of human needs depicted in this image. The lowest layers of the pyramid are made up of people's basic requirements, such as physiological necessities and the need for protection and safety. People's psychological needs come before all of this. Belonging and affection as well as self-esteem are included in this. Finally, the apex of the pyramid shows self-fulfillment needs if all of these requirements are satisfied. Self-actualization refers to a person's ability to realize their full potential. The overall message conveyed by this image is that people's most basic needs come first. The data on the graph pertains to food in the future. The graph shows that by 2035, when looking at world wealth, the biggest number, 90, will be discovered. In 2005, the least number is roughly 45 people. According to the graph, we can clearly observe that in 2035, the highest number of EU citizens will be about 65. There were roughly 30 in 2005, when the lowest number was recorded. To summarize, this graph depicts data on global food consumption in nations like Japan, India, and China. This bar chart indicates the share of private sector investment in infrastructure, percent of total share of total investment, in 2012 in India. Port and telecom sector had attracted highest private sector investment, followed by airports, electricity and road and bridge sector. Railways had attracted least private sector investment. As port and telecom sector are more open for private investment than railways, they had attracted more private investment. The following graph gives information about renewable energy. The items include heating and cooling, transport and power. You can see from this graph that there are two thermometers in heating and cooling, one of which is 51% renewable energy and the other is 10% renewable energy. This graph shows that transportation includes a ship and an aircraft, with a total of 32% renewable energy. This graph shows that there is a plug-in power source, which is 17 with 26 renewable energy sources. This graph shows that there is an arrow underneath power, indicating that the percentage of renewable energy is increasing. It's a lovely image that conveys a lot of information. Finally, this graph is quite useful. Using percentages, this graph displays the countries of origin of legal immigrants to the United States between 1992 and 2012. In 1992, the majority of immigrants came from Latin America and the Caribbean, 44%. Immigrants from the Asia-Pacific region and Latin America, the Caribbean, made up the bulk of the country's foreign-born population in 2012. 38%. Only 2% of immigrants came from North America in 1992 and 1% in 2012, making it the least prevalent location of origin. More immigrants from Latin America Caribbean arrived in the United States in 1992 and 2002 than those from North America. This figure depicts the process of distributing files to end users. The file is a binary file that can only be found on the database server. These customers are then given this file by way of client A and client B in the picture. Once this file reaches the client, it is transformed to a file. Client applications can access files stored on the same machine as their files. When data is sent from a database server to clients, it is first transformed into files. The flags of the United Arab Emirates and Jordan may be seen in the images to the left. The matching red, green, black, and white colors of both flags give them a striking likeness. The red rectangle on the left side of the UAE flag stands out in comparison to the red triangle on the Jordanian flag. Jordan's red triangle has a little star in the center, which is absent from the UAE's flag. Overall, although UAE's flag and Jordan's flag bear striking similarities, they still have notable differences. The proportion of aileron detections by operating system may be seen in the pie chart. XPSP3 accounts for 64.8% of all installations. Windows 7 and Vista SP1 had the lowest percentages, with 3.5% and 3.8%, respectively. Windows 7 and Vista SP1 had the lowest percentages, while XPSP3 had the highest.